Hi everyone, this is Molly and welcome to another teaching astrology video. And in this one, we're going to take a look at the natal astrology chart of Marilyn Monroe. And I thought this would be a fun one to look at because she's such an icon, but there was so much more to her than what many people knew. So this is going to be a fun little review of her chart. The data we have here is that she was born June 1st, 1926, 9:30 a.m. in Los Angeles, California. So we take that information and we have an astrology chart here that's created. And in astrology, there are three things we look at first in a chart. That just helps to figure out the main energies. And the first thing we look at is the sun. And that's probably what you know in your own chart, is your sun sign. And Marilyn's sun sign was in Gemini, sun in Gemini. This is a very intellectual, smart energy. Gemini is an air sign. It is communicative, intelligent. It has a very active mind. It is social. It is probably at times a big talker. It's someone who wants to engage with others. Tell me the latest news. What's the latest gossip? What's going on? They are giving and receiving information. Gemini is one of the signs, one of only two signs in the zodiac that has duality associated with it. It is the sign of the twins. It is the sign of the masculine and the feminine. It's the yin and the yang. And the other sign that's a duality sign is Pisces, which is this sign here. So the Gemini individual can be known to have two personalities, say their masculine self, their feminine self, their public self or their private self, the parts of themselves that they talk about and share, and the parts of themselves that they keep to themselves. So it can be a harder individual to get to know intimately. They can be surfacey. They can be someone who knows how to survive because they know how to be a chameleon and to mutate into what is needed or who they are expected to be. Now, this is actually a sign of survival. It's a sign of intelligence to understand who your audience is, what they're looking for, what they want, and how you can fulfill their needs. This is especially true for Marilyn Monroe because her sun here it's right between the 10th house and the 11th house. This is the house of career, profession, public status, public image. And this is the sign, the 11th house is the house of the audience, the bigger world, the bigger vision of one's life. And we see that her energy was really about being out in the world. It was really about being someone who is seen out in the world. And this Gemini energy is great for the public persona and communicating who you are. And it's really all about feeling engaged with people in a bigger sense. So I would guess that she's someone who really loved the audience. Now, we go the next step here. After looking at her sun sign, we look at her moon. Her moon was in Aquarius, which is another air sign. It was at 19 degrees of Aquarius in the 7th house and just about conjunct Jupiter. This means someone who is not emotional. They are cerebral. They process information. It's very strong mind, very visionary, ahead of their time, a seeker, someone who wants to understand cerebrally themselves and their feelings. This is the placement of the mother and or being a mother. The moon in the 7th house, however, tends to adjust or respond emotionally to other people in this way. So she really was tuned in to what the audience wanted, but also there's a sense here that she needed her independence and to be in relationship. It's interesting because the moon is actually not comfortable in Aquarius. The moon is supposed to be all about our feelings. And this is about her mind. It's like she was one smart cookie. Okay. Like, I don't think she was, someone who gave up anything without understanding what it meant. Like, she probably could see people's next steps or what they wanted from her. This is someone who sees the long term, the vision. And I feel like she was really tapped into that. I feel like she was tapped into more than what we thought, because she has a lot of mental energy in her chart that guided who she was. She had a lot of ideas. She was an idea person. She had her own solutions, thoughts, and she needed to be able to talk to people about that. With the moon conjunct Jupiter, this Jupiter expands anything. So this expands that energy of the feminine, right? Of being that female energy for other people. It expands her relationships and how many relationships she had, the people she related to. This Aquarius energy, though, likes routine and likes stability. It likes to know what it can rely on from other people. So she really needed people she could rely on. What's interesting here, though, is that this moon in Aquarius is squared by Saturn in the 4th house in Scorpio. And this would be being hard on oneself, feeling powerless, feeling like you really had to do a lot to feel powerful. It's actually related to depression. This can be addictions that show up as a way to take care of one's emotional self. So this moon in her chart actually was receiving a lot of energy, and a lot of energy that wasn't hers. The 7th house is about other people, relationships, partnerships, business negotiations, people that you're working with. And I feel like she would give a lot and then resent it, or expect a lot, or have very big expectations of other people and be disappointed. So that's interesting to see here, is that there was a sense of perhaps dissatisfaction because there was something within herself that she was really trying to find, like come to terms with. But the Aquarius energy is a fixed sign. Scorpio is a fixed sign. This is Scorpio. And so there wasn't a lot of room to budge here. And I think this is fascinating because both the moon and Saturn are on the receiving end of a lot of energy in her chart. So not only was her moon and Jupiter squared by Saturn, but her Saturn creates a grand trine. So Saturn in Scorpio here is trining, and you can see it. I want to show you here, this trine. It's called a grand trine, and it's rare. It's at 21 degrees, and it's trining her Mars in Pisces at 20 degrees, as well as the Uranus in Pisces at 29 degrees. And then that is trining this energy here in her 11th house. Pluto, this is Pluto in Cancer, and her North Node in Cancer. So this Saturn energy at the bottom of her chart in the 4th house is the foundation of her power and feeling powerful. And there were times when she was linked up with certain men. This is Mars in Pisces, is certain men. In fact, men that she would idealize, men that she didn't see clearly, that she would feel more stability and feel safe with them. And then in certain times when the Saturn energy again, her foundation, where she feels safe, where she feels secure in herself, was linked up to the Pluto in Cancer energy. There was also a sense of power in her femininity, because Cancer is a feminine energy. So then we have this other leg, which is the Pluto trining her Mars. That would also be the powerful men, the men who supported her. The grand trine here is in the 3 water signs, and that activates feminine energy, intuition, feelings, and how we have to trust ourselves. This is a trusting energy. And if that trust was given to the wrong men, if that trust was given to the wrong people, groups of people, her power would have deflated. But when she was trusting herself and feeling in charge of who she was and her femininity and her nurturing self and her intuitive self, that's when she felt really secure and stable in who she was. But then that energy would intellectually challenge her too, and she'd feel like she had to step more into her masculine self. So it's fascinating how all these parts of ourselves talk to each other and how the planets connect and interact. Now, I got off tangent there because I was talking about the moon, and then I went to Saturn. But typically the second part of a chart we look at is over here, the ascendant. And her ascendant was in Leo, which is the performer, the actress, the attention seeker, the one who enjoys eyeballs on them and who likes to be seen for who they are and their talents. So she definitely came in with a strong focus on the Leo ascendant, the Leo rising, being a performer, being in the public role. Her sun in Gemini loved the sharing, talking, speaking. And her moon in Aquarius in the 7th house wanted to engage with people. I mean, this is someone like all this energy here. See how all these planets are all in this part of her chart? We call this the top part of a chart. It's the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th houses. Most of her planets are up here. And so this is relationships and the world. Her energy was all outside of her except for this Saturn, which was meant to be an anchor, but probably was really hard on herself because Saturn in Scorpio is tough. Saturn in Scorpio can be, like I said, addictions and not liking being alone, not liking solitude, not being at peace when you're by yourself, the turmoil, the angst, the emotional dissatisfaction, all of that can show up if you don't have tools to deal with it. So I feel like Marilyn didn't truly know maybe everything she was here to heal internally, but she was here for the bigger purpose, for other people, and to learn about herself through other people, to learn what it meant to have, to be in the public eye. And it's like someone with this energy that's all out here, they can feel their journey of knowing themselves comes through other people and through the world. And so there isn't a lot of personal work that happens. It's like so much of your life is engaged with other people, with other causes, in your work, in your profession, in your family, in your friends. It's all out here. Whereas if you have planets down here, this is the inner self. This is how you come to know who you are. So I would guess that Marilyn became very good at adapting to what people needed. She probably had 2 personas that she knew when to play, if you will. And she was a smart cookie because her ruling planet Mercury was also in Gemini. Very active mind, probably even more going on in her head that people ever gave her credit for, ever knew about. And the sense of needing to say something, needing to teach, share, educate, communicate. Also strong when you have a strong Gemini. It's the storyteller. So being an actress was good for her to have to really have speaking roles and to not only be an icon. Now her midheaven is up here in Taurus, and that is the energy of, that's the sign of money, self-worth, being beautiful. It's a very feminine energy. And so when we see Taurus on the midheaven, it's someone who has to have self-reliance, needs to make something happen on their own terms and to make money for their gifts. They're really here to be a part of the physical world, meaning the five senses and the talents of that. Now, it also activates music, being able to create anything with the five senses. So it's really about in being known for what you are physically creating, offering, and sharing. Her midheaven ruler is Venus, and Venus is in Aries, just about conjunct her midheaven. So this is really an independent woman, someone who needs to go it alone, who wants to be the star of the show, who wants to do it her way, because it's independent, it's a pioneer, it's the ability to stand on your own. And I feel like she was probably selective in the women she got along with, because Venus in Aries is more of a masculine energy than a feminine energy. So behind the scenes, perhaps, or even just in her own professional world, like she really wanted to be number one, the number one female, because Aries doesn't want to share, and it doesn't want to share the spotlight. It doesn't want to share men. It doesn't want to, it wants to be number one. So that was really what she was about, was how to amplify who she is. And, that happened because, she had Venus sextiling her Jupiter, which really amplified her ability to stand out from the crowd and to be an individual, to be unique. When you have Aquarius and Aries working together, you are looking to stand out, you are independent, and you need to do things on your terms. There's no desire to compromise so much. You really want to be your own person. And so I think that it's interesting how her public image was created with this strong, I would say strong Taurus energy, the strong feminine goddess energy, but she was really much more competitive and determined and independent than people probably knew. So it's interesting how all these pieces come together, and that there were secrets, because Scorpio is our secrets. Secrets from childhood, because the fourth house is childhood and the father. And that relationship with her father really determined how she felt about herself and her relationships with other people. I actually don't know anything about her relationship with her father, but it was certainly formative, and it was hard because Saturn squaring the moon is not easy. That's really being hard on yourself, being almost at war with yourself if you don't know how to use that energy properly. But when she found men she was safe with, which is this energy, which is that Scorpio energy trining her Pisces, then she could feel safe and like you could trust and be taken care of, and kind of give your cares and your worries over to somebody else. So interesting here, because strong feminine energy, yes, but actually I would say that she had stronger masculine energy, because this ascendant is masculine. The moon and Jupiter are masculine, and the sun and Mercury are masculine. Venus in Aries is masculine. So very interesting, right? But maybe that's also her determination, her ability to be a leader, to be a pioneer, to get out there, to not take no for an answer, and to keep going, to keep fighting, to not allow the setbacks to keep her back, and then to be her own person, to be her own woman. So a very fascinating chart, and an interesting look at someone's multiple layers. And that's what astrology shows us, is more about our multiple layers. So I hope you found this interesting, and be sure to subscribe and come back and check out some more videos as I do more analysis of astrology to help you learn more about this fascinating tool we have here. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.